Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Brooke. Welcome. If you are new here, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. If you haven't, go ahead and take a minute and subscribe to my channel. That way you can be up to date on all my latest videos. Today I decided to do a plant chore vlog style, I guess. We'll see how it goes. I have a few plant chores. Sorry, this is going to bother me. I have a few plant chores that I need to get done. And so I thought I would bring you along to show you what I do, I guess. I don't know if that's exciting or fun, but I have 70 plus houseplants, plus 2 children, plus 1 husband, plus 1 cat, plus 1 dog. And this is what I do when I am taking care of all of those things. So I'm just focusing on plants today. We don't have time for the other 4 things. But I just want to take you along because I have some plant watering and I have... This is vlog number 1 with the child opening gummies. Okay.
This is Gummies Gumdrops.
Gummies Gumdrops. You heard her first, folks. So I'm going to be taking you along. I have an overgrown Philodendron silver sword that I need to cut back. I have a lot of houseplants that need to be watered, and so I'm going to share what I've been doing new with that. Let's go see what we've got. I should start by saying this is one setup that I have that you see me behind all the time. So this is main area for my plants. So I have here this Philodendron silver sword who is quite literally climbing up the wall. He's not actually attached to it, but he is growing super large that I need to take care of. I have a few plants that need to be watered. My Mamii, my Albo pothos, who's doing so well. So this is a southwest facing window. The light's really terrible right now. Choosing to do this at a terrible time, but this is, yes, my Albo pothos. It's so beautiful. It's one of my favorite plants. I have several videos, I feel like, on this of me creating the moss pole and just showing what it looked like before. This is 2 plants in 1. And so it has grown so much and it's all rooted in, and I'm just really happy with this plant. I should turn it so that you can see the beautiful foliage, but it does have some fenestrations here and here, and it's always pushing out new growth. This plant, or this leaf, is very beautiful. There's this leaf, so we're just showing all the beautiful, gorgeous leaves. But there was one that, oh yeah, I think I showed it. This one actually came out and had deep, fenestrations, or actually started to lobe out, but then no other one came out with that. They all just have these tiny little fenestrations in them. This one, yeah, has 2 tiny ones right there. But anyways, I need to water this moss pole because you can hear that, it's crunchy. Water that guy. My humidifier is down right now, but put it together. And I have a few other plants that I never share or show. So this is my large, it's not really large, but this is my large fern. It's staghorn fern, and it's so pretty. I want to mount it or do something, but I don't really know what yet. I had a staghorn fern in our last home mounted, and it was really beautiful, but we are not allowed to put anything on our walls because we're currently in a rental. So I am just holding on to him. And then here is my Reverted decursiva, and it got stuck unfurling that leaf. It's done really well. It's a very easy to care for plant, and I kind of just sit up there and don't think about it. This is like my Thai constellation, which I shared a video of me propagating it a couple of weeks ago, maybe, or I don't know. Oh, there's a cat tripping over. But anyways, this is my main plant shelf area, and it's kind of a disaster zone. I try and keep it organized and clean, but yeah, it doesn't really be kept. It's not kept that way. I thought it would be fun to share my snow globes that I purchased last year around Christmas time and planted some things into, and it's done so well. Like, this guy has grown. This is a brandy Philodendron, and it's the only time I've been able to keep it alive is in this terrarium type deal. These are golden pothos. This is a Micans right here, and I think that's it. So there's the original brandy leaf right there, but it sits under my T5 Brain and Grow Light, and I water it when I remember to. But it's done really well. Again, it's the only time I've been able to keep a brandy alive. I think they're very difficult plants to care for and finicky. So yes, that has worked out really well. I need to water it. And then I have another one hiding way back here. And it has a Maranta, some string of turtles, and another brandy in there that you can see. Oops, I'm getting stuck. But it has another brandy in there. This guy I just propagated because I had a thrips outbreak earlier, like a couple months ago. And this guy sat on my bottom shelf down here where my Scindapsus is, and I moved my painted lady, and I have pink princess and some white knight cuttings. Do I need to move back? And then I have some more propagations back here, which this was a fun surprise. I propagated some random cuttings and then found out that I knew one was a Monstera Albo because it had its leaf, but I propagated a stick and it ended up being a Monstera Albo, this guy right here. So that was kind of fun. I don't know how long it's been in there, but I just plugged in some melanochrysum stick cuttings, wet sticks to propagate. Again, this is, I've shared this before if you've watched my videos, a propagation bucket of pink princess. This guy's the only one that is actually not a propagation down here, but is a beautiful plant. I have a Soderoy Philodendron who I'm worried that's going to be like a brandy because one, it looks like a brandy, and number two, it kind of acts like a brandy. It has pushed out this leaf here, which has a spot of variegation on it, which is fascinating. If I can, this is awful camera work, Brooke. So yeah, I just pressed on the leaf to focus. That doesn't work. Anyways, this guy is really beautiful, but it kind of, again, has been acting like a brandy, does not like to dry out, likes high humidity, and if you don't give it that, it pushes out these very small little leaves. So I have just kept him under my grow light right back there. And then I have some, which it's totally, you cannot see it due to the light, but these are silver sword propagations back here that have been doing very well. That it's completely blown out, but it's okay. So that is like this little shelf. This is my original white knight, which I've talked about before. I just am not into. And again, I cut it back to see if it would push out any white. Didn't. It's just burgundy little leaves. So I think I'm just kind of over that guy. My Burley Marks variegated, who I love so much. And then, oh shoot, I gotta water you. My Philodendron Rio. Oops, sorry dude, my bad. That's sad. This is why we're doing this. So I still take all of my plants to the sink. I cannot believe he's like that unhappy. My goodness. Anyways, I've never seen it that unhappy before. Sorry. Yes, so I still take all of my plants to the sink because I have them in these cover pots, yes, in the plastic pots, but a lot of them don't have trays at the bottom. And so I just take them to my sink. So that guy is on my list. I don't use a watering meter or anything. I just kind of go around and pull the plants out and check like that needs watered. And I just set them on the floor and come back for them when I am actually ready to water them. So like seriously, every plant on this shelf probably needs to be watered. This is my Reverted Albo, who I think I'm going to cut. So this was a free cutting. You can see the white somewhere. I really don't know where it went. There was a white stripe. Oh, there it is. That ran through, but it has not pushed out any new white growth. So I want to cut it back and see if it pushes out anything new. So that's what I do. Back to this, my Philodendron Silver Sword. This guy was actually in that spot that my pothos was, my Epicrimnum Albo. And so I removed it from there because I wanted to give my Albo a better lighting situation. And so I moved him here, but when he was in that spot, he grew this, like, this is how tall he grew. He's really tall. And so it's just kind of ridiculous now. I kind of want to take it off of this specific moss pole and make one like I did with my other ones. I like these clear poles, but they are harder to water because the back is completely filled in. I want to cut this down and take it off of this moss pole and just let it regrow from the bottom. Just going to chop it off at the top, you know, leaving the node area and the aerial roots so I can propagate it in sphagnum moss. I like propagating them in sphagnum moss because I find that it has a better rate of return than water. To me, water, I feel like I get half or less propagations back if I do it that way because, I don't know, I just always lose cuttings, I feel like, in water. And so I want to propagate them in sphagnum moss, or I just like to propagate them in sphagnum moss because they root faster. I feel like they root better. And again, I don't lose the amount of cuttings. Honestly, I don't think I lose any cuttings when I propagate in moss. So I am going to do that. Now, this is just a stick. This is not going to do anything, but you can see there's the growth point. There's the new node where it will start coming out. So I'm just going to cut the top part off and leave that part with the aerial roots. You can even cut it further back like that. That's what I'll do there. Now, yeah, you can see it. This part is stuck into the pole. It's rooted in. And I knew that it was rooted in. I knew that it was rooted in, and it's rooted in like all the way in the back. So I'm going to have to pop it open. The only thing I do like about these clear ones is that you can pop them open. So you can undo them all and then pull the moss out that way instead of trying to, like, you have to cut the other moss poles apart. There's no way to like cleanly get them out. But I am just going to continue chopping this guy back because now there you go. So that guy was rooted in. The bottom part, so this is the bottom part, and it's all rooted in. So maybe I'll just leave it there, honestly. I don't know, because I don't think I have the time today to try to pull that out. I kind of want to leave this guy in there and see if it grows or what happens. It does have a growth point on it. Maybe I'll bring you closer. Hold on. So it does have this growth point right there where a new leaf is going to come out. Sorry, terrible lighting. So maybe I'll just do an experiment and leave it and see what happens. Okay, so these are the cuttings. So I have 1 cutting, 2 cutting, 3 cutting, 4, 5, 6 cuttings of this guy that I am going to propagate in sphagnum moss. So I will put that down on the floor with all my other watering or to be watered plants, and we'll do that in there. While we're on the subject of propagating, I have this Philodendron radiatum, I think is what someone said it was. And it's awesome. It's such a funky plant, and it grows so awkwardly. It grows so weird. It's a climber, so it's looking to climb. It's in this pot. It needs to be repotted. I just haven't done it yet. It's not like it's suffering because it's constantly pushing out new growth, but it sits back far on my window. It doesn't get a lot of light. This is a southwest facing window. But I don't know whether to propagate this and cut it back or just let it go. It's just in this area, and it's kind of like taking over with its foliage, but maybe I will just leave it and see what happens. It's a really pretty, easy to care for plant. Again, clearly does not mind the lower light. I've honestly never seen them in a store before. I purchased this plant at a wholesale store, Washington Floral in Washington State, in Tacoma. So if you're in the area, but it was like $7 or something like that. Yeah, it was $7. So I've never seen them in store. I honestly don't know what they look like large either. I didn't know what the plant was when I purchased it. I kind of thought it was a Florida green. And then it started growing like this, and the leaves were more defined and pointy. And I have a Mayoi, and I know it's not that. So, but somebody again identified it as a radiatum. And yeah, that's what that is. That was a dead leaf. So I'm just throwing that on the floor. Anyways, I think I'll just leave that guy, but he does need watered. So I guess I need to put him to the floor. See how many plants I end up with on the floor. This propagation needs water. So I have this Philodendron, or no, I'm sorry, a pothos in Joy. And it's so cute. This is a cutting from my mother plant, but it needs water. Its leaves are drooping. I feel like all of my plants need to be watered right now, which isn't normally the case. So normally my plants are on, you know, a random watering schedule. They don't all need to be watered at the same time. but we've had the air on because it is the summer months, and so that's sucking the moisture out. I've noticed my humidifier is having a hard time keeping up with the 75% humidity range that I have set it on, and so my plants are drying out far faster than normal. And so I have a feeling that a lot of these are going to need to be watered right now. This is a fun random plant that I honestly don't know how to take care of. So if anybody has any tips for this. Now I have owned some other carnivorous plants before, and I've really loved them. So I've had sundew, I think is what it's called. I don't know. Yeah, this guy needs to be kept in filtered water constantly. I had a ping, that's what it was. And I really loved them and I kept them alive well. But this guy, this pitcher plant, has been harder to keep alive, I feel like. I can't figure out the lighting. So yeah, if anybody has any tips for that, that would be great. Let's go water some plants. Honestly, I think all of my plants here need to be watered. I'm not even going to bother putting them to the floor, but this is what I have gathered so far. So we will take that to the sink. Hopefully you can see me. If you can't, whatever. So I already watered my Albo, my Syngonium, who does not like to be left dry. And so I can see that this plant, or this leaf here, hopefully it's in focus, is drooping and starting to yellow off. And I was nervous that it was a pest, but all of the other leaves are perfectly fine. So I know it's just unhappy that I didn't water it in time. So I'm just going to leave the leaf, put them over here. We have a lot of Legos on the counter, so pardon. But I have been doing something new, so ignore I'm going to set it to the side that's nice. I've been using this FOLIAGE Pro. It's Dynagrow. Yeah, it's now called Super Thrive. And so I water it, or I put it in my water. I used to do fish emulsion. However, it started to just, hold on, the smell started to wear on me, and so I just stopped using it, and I've seen good things about FOLIAGE Pro, so I started using it instead. And I don't know, I haven't really noticed anything about my plants like changing or anything. I probably have to use it, for a while. But yeah, I've been using it and it's been fine. I do water a lot of my plants with filtered water, especially because now that I'm using this and you have to mix it in with your water, and it has to be like a gallon. I've kind of been using filtered water because I have a lot of uncommon plants like my Mammy Eye, my Melanochrysum, my Syngonium Albo that like the filtered water. And today, because I don't want to do that, I'm just going to use regular water. And so I put the FOLIAGE Pro in with the water, or in the, whatever gallon jug, and then I will shake it up, mix it, and then water all my plants. It's nothing glamorous. I water them until the water is running out like that, and I'll continue to do it just to make sure that they are like it's all moist on top. But see how much water you lose? That's the only bummer. So I used to bottom water a lot of my plants too, so that you could save on water and fertilizer. But again, it just, I don't know, it takes a lot of time to do that. And I just don't have that at this moment. That's my Philodendron Rio, and it needs soil. It's like there's not a lot of soil in there. But I've never seen it this droopy before. Wow, that's good drainage. Yeah, that's awesome. So sometimes what I do, if you know a plant doesn't have pests and you don't want to waste water, I will, so I have this Philodendron Ring of Fire, and I will put the plant, I know you can't see this, below where I'm watering, and let the water drain out over the plant underneath of it. And so it's like watering 2 plants at once. So you can do that. That guy's watered. And now this guy is somewhat watered. So I just let it drain, and then I just set them over here. But again, if you plugged your sink up and you did this, then that, like the water would, catch at the bottom. And so then you could bottom water some of your plants. This guy's grown so well. This is one of my favorite plants. I talk about it all the time. Little guy, I just kind of set him back in his pot because that soil's kind of becoming hydrophobic. So I'll let it drain and I'll sit at the bottom of it, and then it can soak up whatever it wants. I'm going to water him while I hold him over my Monstera Albo Reverted. It's like a little shower. This is my Stanleyana. Wait, what? No, I'm sorry. This is my Ficus Shiveriana. And it's been doing really well. I have it under my grow light, obviously, but its leaves are getting larger. It's sizing up, I can tell, and it's got new growth coming out. So we'll see how it does. I really like the rubber trees. I think that they're easy ficus to take care of, and they're just really pretty. They come in so many different colors. My favorite is the Taneki, who I do have one, but I chopped it back when we moved because it really just did not like the move. They like highlight, and so I took it out of a highlight situation and it just kind of crumbled. So it's finally regrowing. Maybe another one of my favorite plants by far. This is my neon philodendron. It's just such an easy grower, beautiful plant. If you are doing this over your sink and you have like a charcoal or an orchid bark mix, don't do it over your disposal. I have done that several times. You can get stuck in your disposal, and that's not awesome. So I'll leave those plants there, wash my hands, and go grab more because I have way more. So in here in our living room, I have my large Monstera, who I do water in place. It does have a catch tray underneath of it, and I water him once the soil is dry. And the same with my, I think this is a Milani ficus or burgundy ficus. I don't really know. The green ones and like the reds, they all look the same to me. But I also water him in place. Sometimes I will take him outside, give him a good shower because it's easier to maneuver him than it is my Monstera. This guy's really heavy, but I do water both of these in place. And then over here, I have my sad Philodendron Pink Princess, who I have shared before, but its growth is coming out right there. And then my McDowell Philodendron, where he's got a new leaf coming out, and it's been doing really well. I don't think he needs to be watered at all. I just watered him. Yeah, he's heavy. And then this, my Peace Lily Domino, who I really like, but I can't seem to figure out the care on it. It does not like to dry out. I have figured that. I think I'm keeping it in too low of light situation and not giving it enough humidity or something. Something's happening and it's not good. It doesn't have any pests. I have sprayed it. I have checked it. I have washed it, but it's just like very unhappy for me. Now here is a propagation of my ficus, my little one-off Baranta, wow, I couldn't think, and my propagation of my Philodendron melanochrysum because it got spider mites and I decided to just chop it all back and propagate it. So we'll see how it does. I know that it's common for spider mites on melanochrysums like that. I think that's why people like the Philodendron splendid, which is a cross between the melanochrysum and verrucosum, maybe? I don't really remember. Then here's a cactus and my Tenanthe, who I love so much. This is an amagrist. It's such a beautiful plant, and I think it probably needs water. Now, I let this guy dry out more often than I do my other calathea. Yeah, it's okay. And then the cacti is just chilling there. Folia, who you've probably seen before. This is a self-watering planter, and it's done really well. It's got a new leaf there. And look at this. No, not saying no brown tips, but it's done so well in this self-watering planter. I would say if you want one of these, definitely do something like that. Propagation wall. So I go through and just check all my propagations to make sure that they don't need water. This is a Florida green that I propagated a couple of weeks ago. Some random cebu, some micans, cuttings, and some other random plants that I kind of forget about. This is another syngonium that it does not like to dry out, and I unfortunately always forget about it, and it's in terracotta, which is not good, and it needs to be watered. But some other random propagations. This is, again, just like my propagation wall, minus my cebu blue, who is a full lush plant and looks good. Then you go to my office, and here are just more of my disastrously unorganized plants. So I have my Monstera Thai Constellation propagation over here, who is doing nothing. It's not pushed out any new, like the stuck leaf. If you saw that video, it's stuck. So I think I'm just gonna have to cut this leaf off, and it's sad, but I'm gonna need to do something. And then my large golden pothos right here, who's doing really well. and I don't think needs any attention. And then my Thaumatophyllum, I put it under a Sansi grow light, and it's done so well. It has pushed out like 2 new leaves, and it has more on the way right there. And so this guy needs high light and doesn't like to be dried out, or doesn't like to dry out. Then I have my Esqueleto, who's pushing off a runner and is just probably really unhappy. It got thrips and it has suffered. It doesn't look pretty, but more propagations. I feel like I have propagations everywhere. I need to water that. That's sad. And then this propagation from my Enjoy, who's, let's see, over here, my Mycans, who is just, you know, doing great. I don't know. I feel like I've talked about my Mycans. It's not one of my most favorite plants, and I'm having a struggle time, like struggling with it. I've had it for years. It does need to be watered. It is starting to push out some new growth because I added a Sansi grow light and it can kind of see it. And so it's growing kind of well now. I don't know. It's picked up its growth pattern, but we'll see. And then I have my Gloriosum, like one of my Gloriosums here. Another one is sitting under my Sansi. This is okay. It could be watered, but it just pushed out this brand new little leaf right here. So pretty. Gloriosum is one of my favorite, like it was my must-have plant. It's just so beautiful. The foliage on it is just so green and lush and velvety when they get large. So I'm really hoping that this guy takes off. Another plant that I'm excited about is my Philodendron mayoi. I got this recently. It needs to be watered. I found this at a plant shop in Mesquite, Texas, and it's so beautiful, and it needs to be watered. It kind of looks haggard because it was the last one that they had. It was like shoved in a bunch of other plants, but it's been growing well, I would say, until you see the little like juvenile leaves here. So I don't know if it's a tissue culture plant. It can't be a tissue culture plant. It's like chopped up. So I think that's just their juvenile. Like some plants, if they're tissue culture, you can notice because they don't look like the normal juvenile leaf. So for instance, like Thaumatophyllum, I'm sorry, Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, they were all tissue culture. Like a lot of tissue culture plants came out in 2020 when they were huge, and you could tell because the leaves were not like their mature form. I don't know how to explain it, but I was curious to see if this one is, but it's all like straight cuttings. I guess it could be from tissue culture. I've just seen a lot of people talk about how tissue culture plants have different growth patterns and look different. And I've started to notice, like, I know I have a tissue culture, I think, no, I don't remember right now, but, oh, my Gloriosum, another Gloriosum that I have, I feel like is a tissue culture because it's not growing the same pattern as this Gloriosum. So I know there are different Gloriosums and all of that, but I just think it's interesting. I've been seeing people talk about that more. So if you have more information on that, I'd be curious, because my Gloriosum, again, that I have down below, it does not grow out like a Gloriosum does. It's a crawler. So it's actually growing like in and up, like it's a bush plant or something. It's very bizarre. So anyways, that's that. This is my Boletier, who I repotted a couple weeks ago. It's got a new leaf coming out. It's such a fun, easy plant. I really think this is a beautiful plant and love it. It's one of my favorites. Like, look at those leaves. They're so pretty. This guy, I honestly haven't changed the propagation water on in quite a while. Probably should do that. Doesn't look that bad though. I just have him sitting up there because I think it's pretty. This Jose Bono, I mentioned I left for a vacation and came back, and it had 3 leaves that died off because I didn't water it before I left. Ugh. And do you see that? Then I thought there was thrip damage. I don't see any thrips or spider mites on it, but then I realized the variegation on the plant is in those exact same spots, which you can't pick it up on camera. So this is a variegated plant once they get larger. And so I thought that was really interesting, that the variegation, so the variegation is here on this plant. And so I don't know what that is, if it's a pest or something, but I recently repotted it, didn't see any pests. I've sprayed it down several times, again, didn't see pests. Usually this is like a prime example of thrips. But again, I wish you could pick up on that like subtle variegation. You can, again, it's like perfect variegation right in this front, like of where the leaf is deteriorating. I don't know, but this guy has a lot of variegation here, kind of spotted variegation coming on this new leaf, but I don't know. I don't know if it was just really unhappy that I let it go for so long without being watered. I think it was like not watered for 3 days, or, dry for 3 days, but very sad deal. This guy, again, they like water. So one plant that is doing great that I just ignore is my ZZ. It's doing awesome. So yeah, now we get to water all of these plants. Hold on. Now I get to water all of these plants, plus probably more here. This is my just regular, string of hearts. Man, I'm winning. Philodendron heartleaf. So I need to water you. Just pull you out there. This is a propagation of a pubicalyx, if I can name it. It's doing well. It's pushing out. I think this new leaf right here. It sits under my Barina Grow Light. They like high light. I have another pubicalyx back here. And then I have my Philodendron Ploumani, who I love and needs water. I actually had this sitting up right there where my little Gloriosum was, but it outgrew it, got too tall. And so this leaf kind of got damaged because it was pressed up against the top of the shelf. And so I put it up here to try and iron it out, I guess, so that it could see my Sansi Grow Light. But this is a Brazil, and it needs water. I can already feel it because it's like the lightest pot. Yes, it needs watered. And then my pubicalyx. Do you need watered? I assume yes, you do. I've had this guy for a really long time. I've just not given it the right grow or like light situation until now. I put it under a grow light and it's starting to do a lot better. So we'll see how it goes. And then I know my cacti have been watered. I don't need to do anything with those. So it's pretty much every plant from my shelving unit needs to be watered. And quickly before I leave the room, here is my Philodendron gloriosum. What I was saying, the growth pattern on is different. So this is the new leaf right here. I did repot this plant, but it's growing from the middle. So this is all one chunk of plant, which again, not normal to a gloriosum. And so that's why I think it's a tissue culture, but it's all growing just like really bushy and bunched up. And so I saw Sydney Plant Guy recently talking about this with a verrucosum, I believe, or maybe it was a Congo Rojo, or no, that doesn't sound right. Anyways, it's a plant that I can't think of right now, but I just mixed two other philodendron together. Anyways, but a red Congo, a red El Choco red. Gosh, there we go. Maybe it was the El Choco red. And he talked about how he knew it was a tissue culture because of the way it was growing when it was juvenile. And as it sized up, it started growing correctly. But yeah, this guy, 1, needs water, 2, I just think is interesting. It's not growing like a typical gloriosum. Okay, back in here, I couldn't find the sphagnum moss, so I just put this guy in water for right now. And then I was going to show how I water this. So these are my terrariums. This does have just soil in it. So I didn't put sphagnum moss or anything. In this, I just put straight soil and a little bit of charcoal. But what I do is just spray it. I dampen the soil. It's not really watering. I just do this, and then I just spray the plant. And then I immediately, which is going to be hard to do one-handed. Maybe I got it. Dang. Okay. I just do it like that and put the lid back on it and then stick it back under its grow light. I don't really let it air out or anything. And I cover it with a photo because I don't, love out of seasonal decor, but I want my plant to get some light. So that is what I do for him. And then I have this other propagation here in sphagnum moss. This is a pink princess. Yep, it is a pink princess, but it doesn't have any variegation on it really. It's been growing really well. I did this from a wet stick propagation. And so it took a really long time for it to start growing, but it did. And it's done really well now that it's started to, get leaves and everything. So I honestly this might be a terrible video. I just spray this, or I just dump water in it, and then if there is excess water in it, I just tip it over and pour the water out. But this is also a ZZ that has been rooting, and you can see its rhizome right there. It's formed. Took it 3 months to do that, but there are 3 other ones in here, and they all have rhizomes on them right there. But I just spray him down, moisten the moss, and then place him back. So this is a Enjoy. I have a lot of Enjoy, a Brandy, and Mykins cuttings, and that's a fungus gnat flying around. This is my Pothos Mandula, who does not need to be watered, surprisingly, but I am going to turn him. I don't always turn my plants. They say you should. I know you should because it creates a more full plant, and it doesn't just have a plant, facing one direction, but I always forget. This is a propagation of my jungle boogie because it was not growing well at all, and it's now has the leaves coming out that are stuck, so I really need to take this out. But look at that. I promise you, this guy was in sphagnum moss for probably a week, and it all of a sudden got roots. It is a fast rooter, but like all of those look so good. So I need to repot him, but he just sits right back there. These do not like high light, and so I can start to see that it's getting affected because it got burned right there from touching my light. You can see it like all there. It was touching it, so I need to do that. But this is my pink princess who has really pink, pretty roots, and my Stanleyana Albo, who's really beautiful and needs watered as well. Of course, it put off long runners, so this is a common Monstera thing, and I think that honestly, like Pothos do it as well because my Albo did it. Like it pushed off runners without any leaves. Same for this guy, so it's searching to climb and or water, but now it's finally pushing out leaves. So I love this guy. It's a very easy grower, and it hasn't had any like issues. You can see the white is browning, but that's typical of an Albo or a white plant like that if you don't have the correct humidity for it. I'm going to spray my moss poles down. So I got this pump sprayer from Amazon, and it was like 20 bucks, but it is a pump sprayer, so you got to pump it. Just spray it. Spray the pole down. You can also water your plants this way. I've seen a lot of people watering their plants with these sprayers, but again, I don't have watering trays under them, so I would just prefer to water them at the sink. But that's how I spray my poles down. I used to take them to the sink and spray them, but they are getting too large now, so it was more of a mess than just doing it this way. And I feel like this way it soaks the moss way better, because it's really difficult if you let your moss poles dry out to rehydrate them. That moss fell out, but that's okay. If you really want your moss poles to work, you need to keep them moist in order for the plant to grow into them. My mammy eye needs to be sprayed, but I am actually going to take it to the sink because the pole is small enough for me to spray there. Okay, so all these plants have been draining for like 10 minutes or however long, so I just placed them back in their pots, if I can remember which goes to which, honestly. So I'll figure that out. This is a good time too, if you want to like spray a preventative like neem oil or Jack's Dead Bug Brew, just to keep pests away. You can do that as well. I also use mosquito bits for fungus gnats, but I don't have a fungus gnat problem right now, and so I'm not going to take my time and do that, but I create a mosquito brew. I shared this on my shorts. It's just, you just put the mosquito bits in boiling water and then water your plants as necessary, just like you do. You can also add your fertilizer to that. But again, I don't have fungus gnats right now, so I'm not even gonna mess with that. I don't believe how sad that guy is. That is crazy. Okay, so these are ready to be placed back. Now for this mammy eye, I will just spray it down. I will water it first. So that took like the rest of my water to water this guy, because you really want to make sure that the soil is completely soaked. Like it's still draining, and I just used the rest of that, but I will go ahead and spray it down and it will get a little bit of water. So with this guy, I just use my handy dandy hose and I stick it in here like this. And I slightly soak the pole first so that I'm just not shooting water everywhere, because if you just spray water in a dry sphagnum moss, it's just gonna repel, because it takes a minute for it to actually soak it all up. And then I'll turn the power on higher and actually water it and spray it all down. This guy is easier to keep moist because, again, I can just bring him to the sink and spray him whenever I need to. And then I just sit here and I let it go through and drip down my arm. So I will say, if you have a planter that's like this for your crawling plants, I only water this section. I do not water the entire soil mixture because your plant's roots are mainly like this side. So there's no use or no sense of having a ton of just moist, damp soil. And so yes, I will just water from here on. Okay, so that was my plant chores, or those were my plant chores, I should say. Last thing that I'm going to do is this Albo, Reverted Albo. So I mentioned earlier and I showed that you can see the white stripe right through there. And so it is running through a node. And so I did talk with the person that I got this from, and they said if the white runs through the node, then most likely it can start pushing out a new white leaf or whatever. But it's pushed out 2 new leaves since then and no white. And so, not that I'm getting impatient, but I kind of just wanted to experiment. Again, this was free. It didn't cost me anything. It wasn't like I was expecting an Albo or anything like that. But since it does have that white running through that node, I want to cut it back all the way here and see if it starts pushing out white. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to cut it just right there. So the white is here and it runs through this node. So I'm going to cut it right underneath of it and see what happens to it. So I did it. Okay, I chopped it. Again, I wasn't expecting anything from this plant, but I chopped it right back to that white growth point. I'll take that off, but to that white right there, running all the way through. And we'll just see what happens. If anything comes from it, if it doesn't, whatever. I'm not worried about it. I just wanted to see, because again, it's not pushing out any new white or anything, so it can't hurt. It's just basically a Monstera deliciosa that we are testing out. So that is that. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing what I do with my plant chores. Make sure to subscribe so you can see more videos like this, and we'll see you next time.